All right, so good afternoon, Northwest Region and other AFROTC Enterprise Warriors, and welcome to your Blue Table Talk for the month of August. My name is Sgt Ciccarelli with Air Force ROTC Detachment 280 here at the University of Kansas. And first and foremost, I want to give a shout out and a plug to Tech Sergeant Danner for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys today. I don't know who we have tuned in right now. We got a couple of folks in here. Most of you have been in your detachments for a while, but we're also recording this. So for those of you that are new to your dets and might not know what the Blue Table Talk is, it's this really cool thing that the Northwest Region and Tech Sergeant Danner, built to where every month we kind of go over something different pertaining to cadet actions, be it tuition, cadet pay, security clearances, because as you know, those of you that have been at your debts for a long time, you know this. Those of you that are new, you're starting to learn. There's a lot that goes into this job. It's kind of a never-ending slew of administrative actions that we, as the debt NCOs, need to manage and take care of, right? So with that said, every month it's focused on something different, and it's kind of geared towards, the admin side of it. But this one's going to be a little bit different. So Sergeant Danner had asked for volunteers to kind of step up and take the reins of the one here in August. And I decided to throw my name in the hat because, listen, like I said, we got a lot of administrative actions that we need to take care of. But at the end of the day, the coolest thing about this job, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but the coolest thing is the impact that we have over the future generation of Air Force officers. You don't have to raise your hand or anything, but how many of you guys were non-balled into this assignment? Probably quite a few, right? Yep, I see Sergeant Ballantyne's hand fly up. I was non-balled too, but even if you were non-balled, you've looked at Equal Plus and you've seen, every time you look at Equal, it's always ROTC assignments usually, right? And you kind of read through it, but at your last unit and you're like, what is this ROTC thing? And what's the first thing that kind of pops out on that advertisement in Equal Plus, right? The first thing is usually you are going to be the first vision, the first impression of an Air Force non-commissioned officer to ROTC cadets, to future, Air Force officers. That matters. That's huge. And of course, below that is the slew of admin items that I discussed earlier. But what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is, yeah, we have a lot that we got to do, right? We have a lot on our plate. But I also want, especially for those new folks out there, I don't want you to lose sight of really the impact that you have at the debt level, right? So we're going to go into that today. But hey, for those of you that don't know who I am, again, I'm Tech Sergeant Ciccarelli. I am a personnelist, been in the Air Force now about going on 11 years. My last duty station, I was assigned to the Headquarters Air Reserve Personnel Center over at Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado, which for those of you that have ever been to Denver, it's a great location, great area, especially if you're into, outdoor fitness, hiking kind of stuff. You can't go wrong with Colorado. The problem is the unit that I was assigned to, ARPC, I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's kind of like the Guard Reserve equivalent of AFPC, but not really. They, and I'm not putting them down, but it's just a different setup over there. I didn't really feel like I was that empowered as an NCO. I felt more like, they were kind of treating me like a technician, even after I made tech at ARPC. And that kind of wears on you after a while. I started out there working in casualty services, which was a great job, despite the title. I really liked the impact I had up there helping out, our beneficiaries, our widows of deceased fallen warriors, and getting them paid out. That was a great job. But then I moved over to evaluations, and evals was where dreams go to die, especially on the Guard Reserve side of the house. They don't really quite know how to write evals very well. But, in that section, I was just kind of pushing buttons. All they cared about was, hey, as long as it meets AFI standards, push it in their record, even if the bullets were trash, even if there's an opportunity there to maybe educate somebody how to take care of their people a little bit better. It's all about pushing buttons, pushing numbers. If you didn't hit your Q, 75 evals in Prada a day, you'd get paperwork. It was not the greatest place to work. So I bring that up because when I got the assignment to come here to ROTC Det 280, I don't know if my reaction was the same as the rest of you, but I was pretty excited. because it was a new opportunity to not just be that technician, right? Or so I thought at first. Not just an opportunity to go there and push buttons and do paperwork, but an opportunity to actually make a difference from a leadership perspective. And like I mentioned earlier, being that first line of an image of what an enlisted member is, what a non-commissioned officer is to our future officer corps. So I was pretty pumped up about it. So having said that, I want to talk to you guys about something that I realized pretty quickly when I got to ROTC, because you hear a lot of different things. You hear a lot of different, mumbo jumbo from different people. When I mentioned earlier that ARPC evaluations was where dreams come to die, you heard a little bit about that with ROTC from some disgruntled folks that have been working in the debts for a while. This is where, it's a dead end. There's no career progression here. You're not gonna make master here. Blah, 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 all that stuff. I'm going to get into that, but that's all mumbo jumbo. That's all garbage. That's not true. We are the heartbeat of Air Force ROTC. When you think about that, Air Force ROTC is the largest commissioning source for the Air Force. So we are the heartbeat of that. That matters, right? If that doesn't fire you up a little bit hearing that and realizing that, think about that for a second. That's pretty cool. Having said that, so those of you that went to the NCO course up at Maxwell Air Force Base, and let me see who's tuned on in here. If I had anybody that went through the course with me, I don't think so. But when I went through it in 2019, Colonel Bennett came and talked to us, and he said something that kind of also lit a fire in me. He said, the cadets that you're mentoring right now, that you're impacting at the debt level, when the Air Force turns 100 years old, they very well they could be the chief of staff of the Air Force, right? Or one of those senior leadership positions. That got me thinking even more. Wow, this is pretty cool. Now, you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, this guy's drinking the blue Kool-Aid. This guy is just nothing but positivity. Let me tell you right now, I'm going to address some of those negative factors that a lot of you have that I've heard about before I got to this assignment. I mentioned earlier, a lot of folks said this is where dreams come to die. There's no career progression. There's no opportunities. I've never been one to shy away from rattling the cages. I don't know if those of you that were here in January earlier this year, my team and I, we founded the very first virtual 5-6 council for AFROTC, for the Northwest region, but for AFROTC in general. It's never been done before. Might not have ever been done in the Air Force, for that matter, a virtual, council from scratch. I'm pretty proud about that. I don't say that to brag. I'll brag on my team though. Sergeant Valentine and Sergeant Danner, who are in here right now, they're rock stars. But we took a shot there with that, and we were talking. We had a little group meet set up, and I think it was Sergeant Valentine or Sergeant Danner that said, "Hey, we should try to get the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. We should try to get Chief Master." And I said, "You know what? Why not? Let's shoot our shot." So what did I do? I slid in her DMs. I sent her a message on Facebook, and we made that happen. We set that up. A lot of these changes that are happening right now, the 3-year NCO tour, right? The new AFSC, all these things, right? Now, we didn't have we weren't directly involved in that decision making, but we at least brought the conversation to the table to help move that forward. A lot of these changes that are coming through. So I don't say that to brag. I say that because if I were to believe that this is where dreams come to die, that this is a dead end, none of that would have happened. So what am I getting at? Sometimes you got to create your own opportunities. Sometimes you got to go out there and you got to, if they're not right in front of you, go find them, go create them. So let's go into the whole meat and potatoes of what I want to talk about today, the cadets, mentoring the cadets. I originally said coaching the cadets when I set this up. Apparently, the Air Force has trademarked coaching. They come out with a new certification course. So I am not technically considered a coach, so I can't use that title. But nevertheless, I will tell you, embrace the role of a coach at your detachments. Embrace the role of a coach. So I don't know if is our shirt in here right now, Sergeant Hunt. He recommended a great book to me, The $1 Trillion Coach. And I'm a big audiobook guy. So I don't like to read, I like to listen. So if you have Audible, check out The $1 Trillion Coach. But this book really spoke to me. It's from a guy that he coached college football for years, ended up getting into the business world. And he has coached, thousands of people, not just athletes, but also some politicians, business CEOs, pretty much anybody you can think of, right? I'm going to read to you a couple of quotes from that book, and we're going to talk about them. So the first one here: don't stick it in their ear. Don't tell people what to do. Offer stories and help guide them to the best decisions for them. So why do I bring that one up? Well, what are we trying to do with our cadets here? We're trying to teach them how to be officers, right? We're trying to teach them how to be leaders. What do you think the message is behind that? When we're not just telling them what to do, we're giving them stories. We're sharing our experiences. You know, like I said, I've been in the Air Force 11 years. Some of you have been in much longer than me. Some of you are, you know, anywhere from 6 to 18 years, give or take. Everybody's got experience. Everybody has a story. Everybody has something that they can put in these cadets leadership toolbox, right? So figure out what that is. Think about what that is. Don't hold it in. The next one I want to read to you: work the team, then the problem. When faced with a problem or opportunity, the first step is to ensure the right team is in place and working on it. I love that one. So again, we're talking about building Air Force officers, building Air Force leaders that are going to be leading teams of airmen, right? A lot of times, you guys probably seen this in your cadets. These young men and women, they come into the program maybe with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Maybe we get some that are, you know, we'll use the word cocky, we'll use the word arrogance, we'll throw those around when they get here, right? Part of our job is to correct that, right? Is to show them, hey, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. You have to figure out, you have to toe that line, and you have to ensure that when you become an officer, you put those gold bars on, you leave that cockiness, you leave that arrogance at the door, right? You leave that in college. You teach them how to manage teams, how to put the best people in positions to succeed, how to take care of your team, not just saying you're going to take care of them, not just saying, because you guys have heard that catchphrase, and I hate this catchphrase when you hear, you know, mission first, people always. I say it's the other way around. It's people first, mission always. A lot of people get mad at me when I say that, but I really genuinely believe that if you take care of the people, they will take care of the mission. So I think that's also crucial, and it's what we should be, you know, teaching and educating these young cadets, right? The last quote I want to read to you: be the evangelist for courage. Believe in people more than they believe in themselves, and push them to be more courageous. And I'll throw on another word here: push them to be more innovative. Push them, maybe rattle the cages a little bit. And when I say rattle the cages, I don't mean be disruptive. I don't mean be disrespectful. I don't mean go against, you know, AFI guidance and things like that. What I'm saying is, when you hear that word, this is the way we've always done things. When you hear people say, hey, you know, this is just the way it is. Sometimes it's not just the way it is. I spoke about earlier some of these changes that are coming through with this ROTC position. I shudder to think, would these changes be happening if we didn't rattle the cages a little bit? So think about that. That's the message that we got to give across. It's not to say, hey, let's you know, go against what the guidance says, but maybe it's finding better ways to do things and bringing that conversation to the table and seeing where it goes, right? Be the evangelist for courage. A lot of people are afraid to speak up. A lot of people are afraid to toe that line. That's why things never change. All right, so with that, let's talk about your roles at the detachments in terms of PMT, in terms of lead lab, maybe teaching classes, you know, any kind of PMT event. So I'm also a debt assessor, and I've done a couple of assessments. And I will say, everyone, I feel like we got a really strong core of NCOs here in the AFROTC enterprise, both in terms of, you know, strong leaders and also competent, you know, competent people that are getting the job done, you know, that are taking care of things. But I've also seen a couple of times when I've talked to cadets at these assessments, you know, a couple of times they've told me, hey, I really wish my NCOs would talk to me more, or would speak up more at lead lab, or teach us, you know, teach classes more. We don't get a lot from our NCOs. Their impression of you, should not be just what they see behind the desk, right? That should not be, because again, we are not only their first impression of what an Air Force NCO is, we're the only impression up until they go on EAD, active duty, or if they go to a base visit or something like that, where they might interact with some enlisted folks and stuff like that. But we're really all they have in this college campus environment that is ROTC. I think that does a horrible disservice when their only impression of us is the two NCOs or 3 or 4 NCOs, whatever size your detachment is, that are sitting behind a desk. So I will say, if you're hearing that and you maybe fall into that category, I challenge you to get out from behind the desk, right? I know a lot of deck commanders make it to where their NCOs have to come, to every PMT and lead lab, and others are kind of more voluntarily. I would say if you're the latter, step up and say, hey, sir, ma'am, I really want to come to lead lab. I really want to come to PT. Maybe not every single day or every single week, but enough to where they're seeing more of you. They're not just seeing the one that's sending them emails, hey, Cadet Snuffy, I need you to sign your wings counseling. Because like I said, what we do matters. When I first got to my detachment, and I don't know if you guys had a similar story when you got to your debts, but this is nobody's AFSC, right? Regardless of how long you've been a personnelist, how long you've been an admin, this is all like a new world. So I was picking it up kind of slowly, slower than usual, slower than how I usually pick up things if I were at a CSS or an MPF or whatever. But I took to the leadership stuff right away. Like that was the one thing to where, okay, you know what? If I'm not the best at my job yet, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best when it comes to giving these cadets everything I got. And I'll learn the other stuff as I go along, which I have at this point. But first lead lab, I got up there, introduced myself, and I gathered them all up. I said, hey, listen, I told them exactly who I was. And I said, nobody is going to care about you more than me. But having said that, you pay me with respect, you'll get it back with interest. You don't pay me with respect, you won't know what hit you. And I set the line right there. I am your mentor. I am your coach. I am not, you don't outrank me as a cadet. You don't talk down to me. You don't tell me what to do. We set that line right then and there, right? I am preparing them for the future, right? And every lead lab, I get up there, I'd say something at the end. I pick something up, whatever it was. They're doing marching, and I didn't like the lack of sense of urgency that I saw from them. I get up there, I'd say something at the end. I always had something to say, and they pick up on that. One of my cadets that recently commissioned, he's a second lieutenant now, pending EAD. He came up into my office one day and he said, Sgt Ciccarelli, how do I get up there in front of people and just talk like you do? Like, what's your secret? Like, how do you do this? And I said, I'm gonna give you some unorthodox advice right now, because there's a lot of different, YouTube videos you can watch on how to give a speech. There's all these courses. I say, speak from your heart. What do you want to say? Get up there and say it. It's as simple as that. And say it loudly, say it with confidence. People will follow you. That young man turned out to be an outstanding, not that he wasn't already, but he was struggling a little bit, and he got to the point where he was ranked pretty high in his year group when he commissioned. I'm not saying it's because of that, but it is cool to know that we have that impact over them. Let's just say I was not like this, and I was sitting behind the desk all day and just doing paperwork and not getting out there and showing them what the enlisted force is all about. That's not going to do them any good. They're going to go to their first base. They're not going to know anything about the enlisted force structure. So I will just say, don't, when you have an opportunity to show them more than just your job title, just what you do behind the desk, do it and do it often. So also I want to say, correct what's wrong. I remember, I think it was last semester, our POCs were given the briefing about all the rank insignias in the Air Force, enlisted and officer. And of course, I pay special attention when they start talking about the enlisted ranks. And I didn't quite like what I heard when they started talking about the first sergeant. My cadet got up there, he got to the slide on the first sergeant, he goes, yeah, so these are the first sergeants, and you know, they got a diamond, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And yeah, this is senior math. I go, whoa. I said, hold up. I said, hold up a second. Let's talk about that. So why don't you explain to everybody, all the GMC cadets, all your fellow POC, everybody in the room, what a first sergeant actually is and what their role is. And that's the moment I realized they don't really know. We're not focusing on that as much as we should be. That's when I got up and I started educating them a little bit. This is what a first sergeant is. This is, you know, a highly competitive boarded process to get selected for it. Then you got to go to the first sergeant academy. You got to learn about the legal process. You got to go through all this different. Yeah. I had another one of my cadets. They were doing their board for wing staff positions. And we kind of, I don't know how you guys are at your desks, but we try to set our cadet wing staff up very similar to how an Air Force wing is.
It's like active duty doesn't know what we do either, so.
There's the shirt, there he goes. There he goes, what's going on, shirt? He's quiet now, but anyway, so we try.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Oh, okay, I thought I was muted. It's a good thing I didn't start talking other stuff.
What's that?
I thought I was muted, my bad.
Oh, you're good, you're good. But anyway, so we try to set our cadet wing up just like how a regular Air Force wing is, right? That's a new change we kind of implemented here at the cadets. One of my cadets that was running for an exec position, he made the comment, he goes, yeah, so I see myself as being like, you know, like the first sergeant at the cadet. I said, oh, you see yourself as what? I said, hold up, wait a minute, we got a problem. Let's talk about this. So again, another opportunity to correct and educate, right? When you hear something wrong, speak up. And I'm not just talking about the cadets. A lot of times, and I love our officer counterparts, and you know, but the thing is, some of them they don't have a lot of experience supervising and mentoring enlisted airmen, especially if they're coming from the rated career field. Sometimes you got to speak up with that. You know, just because they're an officer, don't let them say something wrong. Sir, ma'am, that's actually incorrect. Let me educate you. This, for a lot of you guys, this is the first time that you're, especially for the tech sergeants out there, this is the first time you are essentially the lone person on the totem pole when it comes to the enlisted, you know, force at your unit, your detachment, right? You know, you find yourself as a tech sergeant as the quote unquote, you know, senior enlisted leader, not officially till October, whenever that guidance comes out, but you get what I'm saying. You know, a lot of you aren't used to that. You're used to having senior NCOs above you to go to, and they would typically be the ones, right, to you know, spot check an officer or something like that. Now you find yourself, and this is why I say again, ROTC is a great opportunity, right? So speak up when you hear something wrong. With that being said, so I talked a lot about basically embracing the role of a coach, not being afraid to get up from behind the desk. But I also do want to touch base on a couple of hot admin items that are coming up here in the fall semester, especially if you're brand new to your det and you're, you know, I know I was the same way when I got to my first det. I was like, what is going on? I don't even know where to start. Everything's all over the place. You know, where do I start? The great thing now, especially in the Northwest region, we're very connected. We have our group me, we have our teams. Our staff of the Northwest region are awesome. We're gonna help you through this if you're brand new, but I wanted to touch base. It's the start of a new academic year, right? If you haven't already done so, you got to update your unit organizational data in wings, which you should have already done that because the deadline was, I think, last week. But what's coming up here soon, 1 September, we gotta put in the tuition invoices for the entire academic year. If you don't know how to do that, reach out to me on GroupMe, or you can reach out to the region. I'm happy to help you out with that. But I just wanted to kind of touch base on that. We got tuition invoices. We've got AS level updates if you haven't already done so, academic level updates that go hand in hand with that. I'm not going to go too in depth on that, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up. And especially if you're one of those newer NCOs at your det, don't freak out. We're all in this together. We're going to make sure we get through this. But with that said, I turned the AC on this room, and it is still hot as hell. So I am sweating bullets at this point. And now I'm starting to ramble because the temperature in this room is like ridiculous. So I'm going to open the floor for questions, comments. What do you guys got?
Hey Mitch, it's Sergeant V. I was just actually gonna tell like a story. So like when you were talking about how, getting out there and just being a mentor and just being a voice for the cadets. So like one of my favorite, honestly, like one of my all-time favorite moments was when I was down at field training and before they go into their deployment, a lot of them get told like if they're on the wait list or not wait list or watch list or not. And I made sure that I sat down with each and every flight, and I had just like a ranks off, and I was just like, hey guys, like cadet ranks off with me, speak your mind. Like you guys need to figure out what is going on because you need to be a cohesive team, you need to be a cohesive unit. And after I had that with each flight, I remember like going into my office and I'm just thinking like, oh man, like, okay, we'll see how they do, And one of the cadets who's now actually an LT now, but he came and like knocked on my door and I was like, oh, like, what can I do for you? And he was like, Sergeant Valentine, ma'am, can I come speak? And you can see just how like, he was just internalizing like a lot. So I was like, yeah, sure. Of course, come sit down. And he was just shocked because he was on the watch list. And, throughout his like 2 years at the DAT, like he was, the guy that everybody went to. And, he had this type of, he wasn't cocky. He wasn't, being not humble about it, but he was just weirded out. He's like, I don't know what to do. And this is bugging me. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, there is nothing that you could do to change the past or what happened within these past few days. But I asked him to articulate to me like, hey, like, what is it that you do at your DAT? How do you influence the cadets around you? Try to get him to talk a little bit more and try to like raise his spirits, And, as he was talking, he was telling me some things and I was like, yep, because I noticed that you're a behind the scenes person. But what you need to do to not only make yourself stand out, but to push your boundaries, push outside your boundaries, is to take that step forward. So I told him, I was like, what I want you to do is when you go to like VW, you need to step out and you need to show out. Whatever way that you can, whatever way that turn your strongest strength and help others around you. So when I tell you, he like, it was like a 180, like he came out like pushing at one of the leadership courses. And I remember I was so impressed. And even one of the CTAs was like, this is the best one that we had seen. And it was just like such a bright change in him, like ever from that moment. And he wanted me to like pin on his prop and wing. Like when he got in, he was just thanking me. And when we think back to, how us NCOs are just so buried in our debt most of the time, it's those experiences that really shape not only like those cadets, but shape us too, like, and help us grow as non-commissioned officers. And, how we talk to people. Like I recently just got literally, like, I haven't seen one of these, a handwritten letter from one of my LTs. And she was just thanking me for everything. And I was like, I read her response back, but I made sure to go buy some stationery because I didn't have any. And I was like, first off, I just want to tell you, maybe buy stationery for this. But, just kind of go into your point, like it really does, help propel forward, like us, like as NCOs, like being like, no, like this is what this job is all about. It's really hard to, stick with that. But just knowing that I know in Northwest region, like we have a really good connection with a good amount of the NCOs, especially our 5-6 council. So just wanted to share my little story.
I love that. What you just said there, right? It's so cool to have that connection, right? Think about it. Years from now, it's a small Air Force, right? You might run into that officer years from now. there'll be a captain, major, you'll be maybe, you know, master sergeant above at that time, hopefully. That's cool, right? Because it's like, hey, like they'll come to you and they'll say, you helped me out a lot. You know, if it were not for you, maybe I wouldn't be where I am. So that's awesome. But you hit something that I want to touch on that I forgot to touch on when you talk about kind of getting folks out of their comfort zone. This is another thing too I wanted to discuss. You know, we're trying to teach these cadets communication skills, and there's different types of that, right? There's some people like, you know, you and I that are more, I guess, confident and vocal and loud. I'm very loud if you can't tell, but you know, I think sometimes that can be intimidating to some people, and they might think, oh, I'm not like that, or I'm too, you know, I'm too soft spoken to be a great, you know, leader and a great public speaker. But you don't have to be a great public speaker to be a great leader, but you do have to have strong communication skills. I'll give you this example. When I first got to my detachment, we had, I was able to sit in on the Cadet Wing board. Didn't know these cadets from Jack yet, but I was able to kind of listen to them and get to know them at that point. The cadet we selected for wing commander was that kind of, you know, loud, confident, command presence voice, you know, that kind of thing. And the cadet that was the vice wing was a little more soft spoken, but he was, I mean, intelligent, like beyond belief, cared about people, like really cared about people, which was awesome. And he knew the why behind everything, or he was good at explaining the why. So I always tell that story because I'm like, they were both great leaders. But you see the difference. You don't have to be, and this is what we're trying to teach these cadets. And I see that all the time because especially with GMC, they come here, some of them are a little shy, you know, maybe not as comfortable in social situations. So getting them out of their shell and teaching them those communication skills. And once they get it, you know, and it's like they take off. So I like that you brought that up. That's a pretty cool story. With that, anybody else have any questions or comments or stories they want to bring up? Going once, twice.
Hey, sorry, I couldn't get mine to unmute there.
There she goes. All right.
Hi, Sergeant Giannini here, guys. I just wanted to say I love my cadets to death. Absolutely love them. They're the best thing ever. I don't have kids, so they're like my little children. One thing we do here at University of Wyoming is the NCOs give feedback to cadets, which I'm sure some of you guys do too. They love our feedback because it's very honest. We don't sugarcoat, it's straightforward. The main thing that we always keep in mind is when, you know, the officers are giving their feedback, it's about their school, it's about PT, it's like, you run really fast and you have a great GPA, you're going to be a great officer. And like, no, what? No. Yep. So we get that honest feedback because, you know, these lieutenant colonels, majors, captains, they're never going to work for these cadets. We might. They outrank us the day they commission. So I'm like, hey, if you want an honest feedback about how I would feel, you being my leader, come talk to me. And they always do, and they love it. So if you have the opportunity, if you have the time, let them know, hey, come get a feedback from me.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you, Sergeant Giannini. I actually got one of her cadets recently that transferred over to mine. So I'm pretty excited to meet Cadet Clark.
She's amazing.
She sounds like a rock star. So she sounds like she's got, obviously she had a great senior NCO to learn from, and hopefully I can give her the same when she comes over here. But that's awesome. That's something that I think every detachment should start doing. If they're not, every NCO in a detachment is give that feedback, because like you just said, I noticed that too. A lot of times, you know, they focus just on, hey, you got a great GPA, you got a great fitness score, you know, your PIPSM score is great, like all that stuff. But it's like, hey, how are you with people? How are you taking care of and leading people? And you brought up a great point. You hit the nail on the head. And the fact that, hey, you know, we may end up working for these officers one day. So we have a great opportunity to kind of mold them and shape them, because we've seen the good and the bad, you know, all of us throughout our career. So this is why I say, you know, a lot of people have that negative conception of AFROTC, and don't get me wrong. Like I said, I'm not just drinking the blue KoolAid. I know there's some negative, you know, there's some real stuff to that, but I will also say focus on stuff like that. So that's awesome. Great point. Anybody else? Going once, twice, because I'm sweating bullets over here. So if nobody else has any,
just want to say real quick, Mitch, that was like phenomenal feedback just in general, and just kind of redirecting, you know, a lot of people's thoughts and energy. I know I got a lot out from that. And I just wanted to thank you, because I'm so glad to have you as our 5-6 president. And I'm excited for what we're gonna do with these next 2 months. So
is somebody chopping onions in here? What's going on? Hey, likewise, you're awesome. All you guys are awesome. And yeah, you know, that was kind of the main thing I wanted the message I wanted to relay, and especially for those that are new at their detachments, is to never lose sight of that. You know, we get caught up in the admin side of it, the personnel side of it, the cadet life cycle, and don't get me wrong, that is all extremely important. You know, that is, listen, we're the pathway to these cadets becoming lieutenants. If we don't do our jobs well, they're not going to be able to commission. So what I'm telling you is find that balance. Don't get so caught up in just that piece of it, right? Don't forget, hey, you are right their first impression of a non-commissioned officer, right? Don't mess it up, right? Take advantage of that. I'll end with this. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with our senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Chief Cologne Lopez. He's got this thing called the silver bullets of carnivore leadership. And if you haven't read that, I highly recommend you do. I took a lead lab where every week I was reading one of the bullets off to my cadets. I want to read one to you guys. So this is straight from the Carnivore Leadership Silver Bullet number 6. Wherever you go, there you are. So make yourself useful. But I'm going to change the ending to that. Instead of make yourself useful, I'm going to say make an impact. All right, guys. Hey, you have a great day. It was a pleasure talking to you all. And like I said, you know, my window's always open. Shoot me a message on GroupMe, email. Again, if you're new to your debt, even if you're not new to your debt, I've been here 2.5 years. I still don't know a lot. Sometimes I got to ask questions, but we know where to find the answers. So come reach out to us, and don't be overwhelmed by it. ROTC is crazy, but once you figure it out, you figure it out. So we got you guys. But have a great weekend if I don't talk to you, and yeah, we'll wrap this thing up.